All right. The genius, welcome back. So, we have been talking about arrays. We have been talking a lot about arrays, but now we are here. Okay. So, in this chapter, let's talk about arrays, and this is the first session of the chapter. And we talk about, let's just introduce arrays and see what they look like. Yes, we have been using them already, but let's just take a look at what they look like. Okay. So, basically, arrays array is a special type of object used to store multiple values in a single variable. Look at it. It is used to store multiple values in a single variable. You know that normally when you want to store a value in a variable, you only store just one value. You want to store somebody's first name, it's just their first name, their first name, that's the only thing you store. But in case you want to store multiple values, if you want a variable to hold multiple values, you can now put them in an array. So let me just show with an example here. Sorry. Okay. So let's say um, this is my friend's name. Okay. Best friend. Let's say this is best friend. Okay, this is my best friend. His name is, who is even my best friend? Okay, his name is Patrick. Yeah, this is my best friend, my best male friend. All right. Okay, so his name is Patrick. All right. And I'm just storing one value. So I'm here, I cannot store I cannot store more than one value in this variable. So this my best friend variable now is storing my best friend name. So, but what if I want to store more than one? But what if I want to store, oh, I can have other friends. Okay, what if I want to store their names? Then I can now use an array because I'm going to store multiple values. So with a single variable, I can only store with a normal variable, I can only store one value, one single value. It can either be string, it can be number, it can be Boolean, it can be whatever data type it is, but I can only store one value. But if I want to now store multiple values, that is where I will use array. Let's say I want to store the ages of my students. Let's say I want to store their scores. You understand? So I cannot just store their scores in in the normal variable. I will use an array. Okay, so that is what we mean by that word. An array is used to store multiple values because the normal variable that we use can only store a single value. All right. So if you want to store if you want to store multiple values in a single variable, array is your go-to. All right. You can see how important it is already. Yeah, because of course you would want to store there will be times you want to store multiple values. So that is where you use an array. So arrays are ordered. They are ordered collection of elements. So anything you store in an array, they are ordered. All right. They follow a certain order. They follow a certain order. And each element is identified by an index starting from zero. Don't worry, when we start to create our array, I'm going to show you what I mean. Okay all the collections, all the elements, all the items we have, all the values we have stored in that our array variable, they are ordered. They follow a certain order and they are identified. Every element is identified by their position, and that position is what we call index. All right, that position is what we call index. And the index starts from zero, not one. Yes, we are used to the number system starting from one, but when it comes to arrays, all right. When it comes to arrays or when it comes to anything that has to do with index or positioning, index is just another name for the position of that element or that item. So it starts from zero. So arrays are one of the most commonly used data structures in JavaScript. Yes, array is one of the data structures that we use. So data structures is a concept we are going to talk about in advanced JavaScript. This particular course we are doing now is JavaScript for beginners, okay? So we have another course called advanced JavaScript, and that is where we talk about data structures and algorithm in JavaScript. So arrays are one of the most commonly used data structures, okay? So they allow efficient storage and manipulation of multiple values. So arrays allow for efficient storage and manipulation of multiple values. So whenever you want to do anything with multiple values, you go with arrays. Okay. All right. So by mastering array methods, all right, we will in a separate session we are going to talk about all the methods of array. Okay, we are able to split them. That's why we'll have enough time to explain them. And if they have a method, they have methods and they also have iteration techniques. So you can write more efficient and readable JavaScript code. So array is amazing. So when you master these methods, so it took me some time to master this method, but when I mastered them, it was amazing. I could just write amazing code. It was just efficient and it was easier when I mastered these array methods and how to iterate through arrays. So this is what you're going to learn in this chapter, okay? In subsequent sessions, we are going to talk about methods and iterating through arrays, the iteration techniques, okay? So how do we create an array? The first, we have multiple ways, but the most commonly and the recommended one is using the array literal. You know, for almost everything that we have talked about, when we want to create regular expression, we have the literal method of creating it. Almost everything has the literal method. When we also talked about object, we have the literal method of creating it. So now this is this is the recommended. So this is how you create an array. You use your constant keyword or your let keyword, all right? Then the name of that variable. Remember, an array is a variable. It's just that it's a variable that is holding multiple values, all right? So the name of the variable, okay? And then the assignment operator. Then you start with this bracket. Everything that you're going to write inside the array is going to be inside this bracket. So then inside the bracket, you now put in the value separated by comma. You can see how this one was written, okay? So let's go to code and see what we are doing. All right. So now this is my best friend, Patrick. All right. And let me create an array. I'll call it friends. Now, these are my friends, okay? Um, I would also include Patrick as my friend. Meanwhile, these are my male friends. Okay, I'll include Patrick. I would include James. I would include Ifeanyi. Okay. I would include Okam. This is my Tete friend from the university. Okay. And this is the few I can just put in. Okay, I can also include Austin in case they are watching this video and I didn't mention their name. Okay, so I'm just joking. All right. So these are my friends. I have more than this. Okay. But these are the few people I can just include here. Okay. So to be more specific, I have James. I'm just trying to play around. Okay. No, we not go kill ourselves say with the code now. So sometimes we just play around. So I will add James and Mitch, and I also add this is Ifeanyi and James. All right. So I'm just playing around. Okay. So let us ease the tension. You know, coding can be something else. So we have to take it easy. And sometimes, just most times, always find a way to ease the tension because there's a lot of tension. Coding is not easy, but we are here to help you and make it easy for you. Okay. All right. So these are my friends. All right. So you can see this variable is an array. I started with this bracket, and then these are strings. All right. No, one thing with JavaScript is that because JavaScript is not a type-safe programming language, I can actually put in numbers here too. But please, that's a very bad thing. So even though JavaScript is not a typed language, a type-safe language, please always make sure that whenever you have an array like this, make sure that they are of the same type. The type here, we are using string. And even we are using TypeScript. So after learning JavaScript, it's a must, you have to learn TypeScript. All right, most companies that's what they are using. Short, I do not write vanilla JavaScript anymore. What I write in my projects is TypeScript. Okay, so after learning JavaScript, you have to learn TypeScript. We also have a course for TypeScript to teach you. Okay, so now always make sure that you're using the same data type. Okay, always make sure you're using the same data type. So in case I want to, but if you still do something like this, 9900, there will be no problem. JavaScript will not see it as an error. Okay, because JavaScript is not a type safe language. But please, even at that, make it a habit of not doing this. Have your array should be of the same type. Okay, all right. So we have this. So if I'm to console, if I say console.log, this, my friends, okay, this is what we are going to get. Always end with semicolon, please. All right, so if I run this code now, we are going to get this array. Okay, this could also be, I could also make an array of the ages of my friend. I can say ages, and I'll start with a bracket. Then I will say 34, 12, 89, 45. Do you understand? So here I have an array of strings. You can see when I hover, I have an array of strings. When I hover the ages, I have an array of number, and you can see how it is written. So because this the data type here is number, and I have this bracket at the end of it. Okay, so it shows that this is an array. But if I try to do something like this, if I try to miss this data type, I say 77 here and 12. When I take my mouse over, it's not going to be, it's not saying string or, okay? So, but this is beyond what we are doing right now. So, please just make sure that you stick to this. So you can see I have them printed out. Okay, so I have an array. Now I have a store. I have stored these values, so I can use them. However, I can use them, I can manipulate them, I can do whatever I want to do with what I have now. So most times when you read data from database or from an API, they mostly come in this format, maybe objects or arrays, in case they are arrays of items. So they come in arrays. So when you get this data, you can now work with them, manipulate with them, and do whatever you want to do with them. Okay. All right. So now let's continue. Okay. So you can also use the new array constructor. So if I don't want to use this literal, I can use the new array. All right. So let me show you how. But before I even show you how, something I wanted to say. Okay, I can also have an empty array. Okay, you can also have I can also have an empty array, and then with this is an empty array. So later on, I can now modify, when we talk about modifying arrays, okay, we'll do, but right now I can actually have an empty array, and when I print this empty, you already guess what it will give me. It will give me empty array. So when I run this, there is no item in it. Okay, you can still have an empty array. Okay, all right. So let's go on and then use the constructor method. I say new array. You can name it anything. Okay, I will say new. This is another way of creating. So I can now put in the items. I can now put in the items. Okay, I can say 88, 99, 33, 23. Oh, sorry, this is wrong. No, 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 no. What I should put here is the length. I'm sorry. Okay. So what I could do here is the length. I could say this is, my friends are five in number, so the length is just going to be five. Okay. You can see the difference. Okay. Now, I didn't specify the length here. Automatically, JavaScript will figure it out for me. But here I said this is five. And the thing is this. Okay, this is just the creating an array. When we talk about modifying, we can also take a look at these examples. Okay, I wanted to say something, but I think I might be ahead of myself, but I don't have to say it now. So now if I go on and console log this new array that I created, it is an empty array, but the length is five. Okay, you can see it is an empty array. All right. So it's an array, but it has nothing in it. Okay. All right. So this is how you create an array. You can also, excuse me, I think I got it wrong. Sorry, I'm so sorry. I got it wrong. I got it wrong. That's, oops, I got it wrong, please. I'm sorry. This is not the line. I'm so sorry. This could be, this is the length actually, but because there are several overloads. I talked about method overload in when we're talking about regular expression. So now this is what here, this is the length. So if I say array dot length, I'm going to get the length property, and I will explain length later on, what length is. I will explain it. So this is an array. This is the length. So, but there are multiple, there are overloads of this. So if I go on and say this first one takes the length, the second one takes the length 2. Okay, and the third one takes items. So if you look at our example, we could go with this, all right? And when I print the length of this one, we have 4 items, so the length is 4. So you can actually put in the length, the first overload that we saw, or you can put in the values in here like this. So you can see you just have to master it. So we have 4. We are going to have 4 because we have 4 items. But if I have just one argument here, if I provide just one argument here, this is the length. This is not, this is the length. So if I run this thing now, the length is 3. But if I now have multiple, do you understand? Then these are the items. Okay, so just be careful with it when you work with it. Just try to understand it better. Okay, so that is why you need to learn how to read all these things. So look at it. If I open this parenthesis, you can see I have 1/3. So it's showing me the first version of this method. So the first version says that this particular constructor is expecting a parameter, and that parameter is number, is a number type, and it is the array length. If I use my button, my arrow down button on the keyboard, I will go to the second one. The second one also expects the length, but now it is of a type. It is a generic one. This is we are not talking about generics here. Okay, this is it is generic. All right, and the third one now takes in the items. Okay, so all right, so that is how to create arrays. All right, so the next one we take a look at is this. So, but note that the new array method can sometimes behave unexpectedly, especially when passing a single number. Yes, you can see I got confused. You can see even when I was, because I don't know this new array, that's not what I use now. If I want to create arrays, mostly I use a literal method. So you can see it's just because of experience that I was able to find my way back. Okay, so now they already mentioned it here. Say the new array method can sometimes behave unexpectedly, especially when passing a single number. So when you're passing a single number, you might think you are passing an item, but make sure when you're passing a single number, you are actually creating an empty array with length 5. You saw it happen. Let me go back to it. So don't make this mistake. When you pass a single item, this is the length. It is not an item. But when you pass multiple values, yes, it is no longer the length, it's now the item that are in it. So be careful when you work with these things, okay? All right, so how do you access or modify your arrays? Okay, so remember we said that arrays are ordered. They are ordered collection of items, and their positioning starts with the index of 0. So each element in an array is accessed using its index, starting from 0. So if I want to access an array, I will use the index. So look at this example here. We have colors. We have red, green, and blue. So if you want to access the first value, the first item, you use the index 0, not 1. It doesn't start from 1, it starts from 0. So this is 0. Red is in the position of 0. That's the index is 0. Green index is 1, and blue index is 2. But the length is 1, 2, 3. You have to make sure you understand this. The index starts from 0. So red is in the index of 0, green is 1, blue is 2. But when you look at it, we have 3 items. So the length of this array is 3. All right? So now, if you want to modify it, you can use their index to modify it. So let's go to code. So let's say I have this array, and I want to access the first item the first person in, I want to access the first person in my friends list. So what would I do? I will use the index 0 because I want to access the first person. So when I run this code, what am I going to get? I'm going to get Patrick. So if I run this, I'm going to get Patrick. All right. If I want to get the second person, I'll use index 1, not index 2. The second person, remember you are accessing them through their indexes. So the first index is 0, the second index is 1, but the index 0 is the first position, index 1 is the second position. So just, you need to understand this, okay? So when I run this, I'm going to get James Amechi, okay? All right. So now, what if you want to get the last? It's tricky, but let me show you how, all right? You know, we have, let's do this thing. Let's say, I will say const, I will say last position. All right. Let's say this is the last position. So if I want to get the last position, what would I do? Remember, I might not know the last in, although yes, it has arrays have last index. I think so. Dot last, it has a method called last index of. Okay, don't worry. I don't want us to go to methods yet, but let's just do something manually without the methods. Last index, okay, last position. Remember, the length is 1 greater than the last index. So look at it. This is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. But the length is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The length is 5. The index, the last index here is 4. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. But we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the last index is 4 and the length is 5. So I can do this thing. I can say, let me get the length of this array, friends.length, then minus 1. That's the trick. Remember now, the index, the last index we have seen here, Patrick is 0, James Amechi is 1, Ifeanyi James is 2, Okam is 3, Austin is 4. All right. So, but the length is 5. So if I want to get to this guy, the last person, I will do the length minus 1. 5 and 4. The difference is just minus 1. So if I go on and say the last index, the last position, I can call it last index, okay, or last position. So if I print this thing now, I'm assessing. So how do you assess? You assess using the bracket. So if I run this thing, I'm going to get Austin, the last person. So that's the trick. So how do you assess? You assess by when you write the name of the variable, the array, you open this bracket, then put in the index. The index could be 0, 1, 2, 3, whatever, or we can still use this last position to get the last person. Okay, so I can say I'm looking for the index. But what happens, I'm looking for index 1. Do you understand? I will get James Amechi. But what happens if I go on and say index 10? We don't have index 10. We only have 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. We don't even have index 5. If I go on now, we are going to get undefined because it's not available. We are going to get undefined. Okay, so these are tricky things that could come up when you're working with arrays. All right. So arrays properties and methods. I'm only going to discuss the length. We have the subsequent session to talk about the different methods, okay? So the length property returns the number of elements in an array, all right? It returns the number of elements in an array, and the length is 1 greater than the last index. You can see the trick we did. The length of an array is always 1 greater than the last index. So you can use that trick in case you're working with it. So you can see we have this cars, Toyota, Honda, Ford, and we have length 3. Okay, so another thing I would want to show you before we leave this length topic is this. I could actually, maybe I should take these guys off. I could actually say friends. The length of this of my friends here is 5. So if I say, sorry, if I say friends.length, I'm going to get 5 because there are 5 items, there are 5 elements in this array. All right. But what if I come here and I say friends.length? I can change this from here. I can say the length is 10. What happens? If I go on and print this, I'm going to get what? 10. And if I go on, watch. If I go on and print the friends now, I'm going to get 10 items, but the remaining ones will be filled with undefined. Okay, sorry, this is not really giving us here. What we should have here is, oh, I don't know how. Okay, Okay, so this extra three dots you're saying here is the remaining items, but they are going to be filled with undefined. Okay, if we have used browser, I think it will give us something better. Okay, so we are having more. We have five items there, but we extended the length to be 10. So here we are now saying the remaining ones are now going to be undefined. So if I go on and say I'm looking for item in index 9, it's going to give me undefined. It is available, but it is on nothing is there, but the position is available for it is undefined. So you can actually increase the length from here. Okay, and this is it. So the length of an array gives you the number of items in it, and you can actually extend it. And even if you use the new array, you can also the first, if you have the single parameter there, any number there is the length. Okay, so you can actually, I can modify this. I can say if you want to modify this, let's say I want to modify the first item, which is Patrick. I want to make it his full name. So I will use the index. I will say friends, then this bracket, then I'll put the index, then I will now say equal to Patrick, Patrick Atunzo. Oh, okay. So let me do this. My keyboard is giving issues, so my Z doesn't come up well. All right, so now I want to make it his full name, Patrick Atunzo. All right, so I have changed this now. So if I go on now and print, I have modified this value. The value in index 0, I have modified it. So this is how you modify a value. So if I go on now, you can see that Patrick is now Patrick Atunzo. We have it Patrick here, but later on we now modified it. So we now got Patrick Atunzo, okay? I can also say instead of Patrick Atunzo, I can just put in any other thing. All right, so this is how you modify. Okay, so if you get confused, please just let me know. So if you want to modify James, if you want to modify Austin, you can just look for the index. The index there is 4. I can say 4, and I can go on and say, I can go on and say, I've forgotten his surname. Sorry, Austin, don't be angry with me. Oh God. Ikpechi. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Austin, if I didn't get it. I'm not sure I got this. I'm not sure I got it. So, but sorry, brother. Sorry, sorry. It's just for example's sake, okay? So your name now is Austin Ikpechi for this session's sake. Okay, so if I run this thing now, we are going to get Austin Ikpechi, but here we got Austin. So this is how you modify, all right? So we have more to talk about in later sessions. We really have more to talk about. Then the last thing we might talk about here is looping through arrays. Although we will have a separate section to explain it very well, we have a couple of ways of looping through arrays, and the for loop is one of them. So because I would have a lot to explain here, okay? I will have a lot. When we talked about loops, you know what the for loop is. So I will have a lot to explain here. That is why we are going to reserve it for the next session when we talk about looping through arrays. We have different methods of looping through arrays. So now, how do you check if a variable is an array? There is a method, all right? Array.isArray. Then you pass in the array to check if it's an array. So when we go on now, let me go on and say, okay, so I want to check if this friends is an array. What I will do is this. Okay, I will say, I will create another variable here, is array, and I'm going to say this array dot is array. You have to know this, and you will use this thing very well. All right, so I want to check if this friends variable is an array, because sometimes when you want to work with arrays, and if that thing is not an array, it might be a problem. So you always make sure that you check first if it's an array. So when I go on now and print, sorry, if I go on to print is array, all right, it's either true or false. It will return a Boolean value. So when I run this, it's going to give me true because friends is an array. So take your mouse over this is array. You can see, okay, is a method and it's returning true or false. Okay, so it's even returning an argument. Okay, this is let me not explain what this is. It's really beyond us now. Okay. So, but it simply put, it returns it is return boolean, true or false. So now I have, what if I try to check, we have checked it, array dot is array. We now put in the array we are checking as an argument. It return true. What if I want to check best friend? This best friend is not an array, so it will give us false. So this is how you check. All right, do this. You have to do this check before you use an array. So it is false. So I could say if this is true, I could go on to do something with it. But if it's not true, I could not do anything with it. So remember the if conditions, the if statement that we did. Okay, so this is how you actually go about it. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to see you in the next session where we'll be talking more about arrays. We have a lot to discuss here. So, but in case you have any question, please reach out. The button, the right corner on your screen here, click on it, get to the group, ask your question, chat us up privately. Your instructors, you have their contact. Ask your question. We are here for you, okay? We are here for you. So reach out to us if you get any confusion. Thank you very much, and I'm going to see you in the next session. Have a great day.